Welcome back to Jersey Matters. I'm Larry Mendte. A constitutional amendment to legalize recreational marijuana in New Jersey passed this past election by a landslide, but not so fast. The legislature has to figure out the details. And this week I spoke with Republican Monmouth County Senator Declan O'Scanlan, who's concerned about how much the state plans on taxing marijuana. Senator O'Scanlan, again, as always, thank you for speaking with us today. I wanted to get your thoughts on a few things, especially the marijuana referendum passing overwhelmingly, and now legislators say they're going to get this done by the end of the year. Something you said the last time we talked to you has stuck with me, and that was you were convinced that the taxation was too high and that the black market would survive under the current legislation. Is that still the case?
It's still a concern. So the way the constitutional amendment read seems to indicate that the only taxes we're going to put on marijuana will be our sales tax and a local 2% retail tax for local municipalities that host these facilities. If that's all there is, that's a good idea, because one of the main things that we need to focus on here is crushing the black market that has every incentive to push drugs to our children, starting with marijuana, God knows laced with what. I think I mentioned to you recently that I know someone directly who had a child who, sorry about the dog in the background, but this is on Zoom calls. Every time I mention marijuana, he goes, I don't know what's going on. A local kid bought marijuana, like a lot of local kids do. It's available everywhere. And it was laced, they believe, with fentanyl. Emergency room, overdose, it's a problem. So you need to crush the black market and the people that fund it and the cartels that benefit from it. And that should be job one. So that it's a concern if you overtax, and if legal marijuana costs more than 20% more than it does on the street, you leave an incentive on the table, like California did, to perpetuate a black market. And in California, they went way overboard, and the black market thrived. Well, we should learn to not do that. The inclination of my wonderful, good friends on the other side of the aisle is to tax the crap out of everything. You can't do that here, because you won't accomplish that mission job one, which is to improve our children's health, to take away the incentive to push drugs to them, especially laced with anything. So you got to get the tax structure right. That's ongoing right now. As we speak, we know there's discussions going on about where that will be. Could you get there? Yeah, you could. If you do what the constitutional amendment suggests, and I believe it was a commitment to the voters, that we will only charge sales tax and then only the 2% local tax. You do that, probably grand slam. But we know that the governor's office, I think, is looking for a pretty big excise tax, which wasn't mentioned in the constitutional amendment. I may really challenge that. We'll have to wait and see.
Moving on to another issue, I understand that there's a lot of people in New Jersey that work in New York, are used to going in there, but because of the pandemic, they've been working from home, but they're still paying taxes as if they were working in New York. And I know you and others believe New Jersey should be getting those taxes. What are you going to do about it?
Well, we have a bill that would mandate that we take a look at this. But look, I cut some slack to Governor Murphy, the administration, early on in this mess. That it's a matter of human bandwidth, right? These are human beings we're dealing with. Republicans started to raise this. Senator Ora always raised it very eloquently right from the beginning. This is a source of real dollars for us. I cut some slack to the administration initially, but now we're going on 10 months of this, 9 or 10 months of this. And it's tremendous money, and it is the law. We have every right that work performed in New Jersey be taxed by New Jersey, not New York. So our residents would actually save some money. We've now reduced the incentive, but still would save some money. And the money that they do pay in taxes would come here to provide services for them in New Jersey. So that's how it goes. And it's also very likely that much of this work now that has moved across the river will stay here, or a big chunk of it will stay here. So we really need to draw a line in the sand here, reclaim that money for our treasury, and And it's bottom line. We need to do the right thing by our taxpayers, by those workers, and make sure that we assert our rights as a state to tax these people based on where they're performing their work.
You say a tremendous amount of money. Define a tremendous amount of money. And if it is that much money, why wouldn't the governor jump on this?
Well, I'm a little baffled by that. And look, there may be an argument about how much money is at stake here. I've seen estimates as high as $700 million a year. Could it be 200 or 300 million? Maybe. Maybe someone in the administration doesn't think that's worth going after. I happen to think it is. But whatever the number is, it's the right thing for the taxpayers of New Jersey.
I talked to the head of Board of Elections in counties across the state over the last several months, and they were ready. They were pulling their hair out. They were ready to quit because they had so many problems with the amount of ballots that were sent to them, and they weren't ready for that. So do a postmortem on this election. Are we going to try this again? Was this a test for what's to come?
I don't think so. I think it'd be very hard to rationalize that. There are so many people, both sides of the aisle, that first like going to the polls. They trust the machines that are in place for in-person voting more so than they trust the mail-in ballot system. And when you get, I had a dozen people tell me they got various ballots mailed to their houses for other people. So look, I don't think there's widespread fraud, but our system wasn't designed. There are states that do 100% mail-in voting. They spent years preparing for it. They made a conscious decision to ditch in-person voting. That's very different than what we did here, a sudden decision, which in the end was unnecessary.
All right, Senator, thank you again for your time. Republican Senator Declan O'Scanlan from New Jersey's 13th Legislative District. Still to come on Jersey Matters, Daniel's Law is now on the governor's desk. We'll tell you what that is when we come right back.